I find it fascinating, yeah, what the views of what space there was or wasn't.
Mm.
I had thought of it that if you could, you couldn't, the future was always built on the past. To me, that sounds like the past predicted the future,
Yeah, I think so.
which would mean that it was already written out, right? Is that I know our focus still, our conversations, our focus, still focus is about the past. Carried forward into the future, which is why it just keeps playing the same thing again and again.
Yeah.
Where a creator would say, when asked the question, what are you most proud of? What I'm doing, what I'm going to, how do you say it? What's next?
Mm-hmm.
What's next? Well, there's a couple of things in that, right? That means it's focused forward. In terms of proud, of how we think of how we celebrate proud in that question. This will be the best one yet.
Yeah. And then I think of that statement of his that imperfection is so much better than perfection.
Hmm.
And so there's just so much joy in being.
Hmm.
It's no wonder he doesn't look 80.
Right. That's what I was thinking too.
I mean, those cells are vibrating at a frequency that is at least 10 times higher than mine, if not 20.
He says there's two people, there's performers and learners. He says, oh, we're pieces of both of them, but a performer or learner. A performer goes for perfection.
And that cripples them often.
Mm-hmm. Well, it is the
Oh,
he was speaking about it in terms of the big organizations, right? That
yeah.
our history of the established organizations, that everyone fits the every day is you're performing. There's no practice. There's no rehearsal. There's no room, no experience, experimenting.
Mm.
which is why you get people that just follow the system.
Mm.
And even the newer companies are bumping into that. Any structure that's there, and that's what he says is, if you want something, he's like, if you want creators in your organization, you have to support the system. You have the system, the culture has to support that. Has to be rewarded. Failures have to be encouraged. Experimentations have to be encouraged. Not just rewarding the top performers.
But how do you do that in the context of a consumer economy?
I don't see any connection at all.
Yeah.
To the consumer. Because at the end of the day, it's the business that's creating new offers to the consumer. And
Yeah,
if you,
what I see is that the companies are basically held hostage by shareholders.
oh, yes, and for the most part, and who are typically the shareholders?
The consumers
Mm,
that have learned to play a game very well. But it's the structure of the game.
mhm. Well, most of the shareholders are those that have had wealth for a long time.
Yeah.
And so, of course, I would say it's hard to say. But you're exactly right. It's when you've done it, especially the longer you've been around, right? It means the more successful you are compared to others is how they view that. Which guarantees a longer future in the same concept.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, to do it, you basically, like what Fritz says, to do it, you have to redo the whole structure.
That's right. You do.
And that's chaos.
Exactly.
No one wants to create chaos. You
Wow.
can't. That's what he used an example. He said, all right, CEO, you want to do this. How long are you going to be here?
Yeah.
Because the people they have to trust that you're going to be there, that you're going to hold them through. Because as soon as somebody else comes in, more than likely they go back to the old structure.
That's right. That's why governments can't change.
So they are the worst for being stuck in the past.
Yeah.
They
But they
can change, they're
also,
just not structured to, and
but
they're not
Jesse,
structured to respond fast.
don't you think governments are also held hostage by industry? I mean, that's where we've gotten to now, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're controlled by the same money,
Mm-hmm.
same power. So that at the end of the day, people's votes are the ones that really matter. But again, it's only a 4-year window.
That's right.
Nothing can happen in 4 years.
No. I love that AI guys conceptualizing about democracy and how you can how much you can do still with improving with democracy as it was conceptualized certainly isn't as it is practiced anymore at all.
Mm.
I don't know that it ever really did work. It's certainly the right structure for in my mind. But on a practical level, if you've got people voting for things that they've got no real connection to, they've got no real understanding of, nobody has understanding of everything.
Somebody does.
I don't know.
Said another way, somebody has a passion about everything. It's the collective. It's the only way the collective works.
Yeah.
People with the passion for that thing need the support to do it. So how do you make it easy to find those that have the knowledge of it, that are truthful in how they're going about it, so that you can support them to get what you want done? And you'd have to know your community first. Kind of the model that the guy you shared, the philosopher about AI.
Yeah. I
He
love
said,
that.
I'll give my vote to a teacher, or this teacher, regarding this things, because they're in the middle of it. He was speaking about a democracy that way.
Mm-hmm.
No, I know. Still in this day and age, we vote with a pen and paper and filling in a bubble. So yes, radical change.
Mm.
That's when you're holding on to the old structure. Becomes a lot of conflict between the two.
A lot. When you think you just think about that basic notion of collaborating with nature as opposed to finding a way to dominate it. With no regard to the consequences of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's the same as what we do as individuals with our bodies. And so it's a force energy instead of an inspirational and Yeah, it's a constricted energy instead of an expansion.
Mhm. Fritz used the example of his son wasn't good at baseball.
Mm.
Most things you try for the first time, you aren't.
Yeah. Yeah.
He says, I know you might not be able to learn it. Because it says his son kept saying, I can't. He said, I know. You may not be able to learn it. Would you like me to teach you? And he just kept coming back. Would you like me to teach you? Yeah, I understand you might not be able to learn baseball, but would you like me to teach you?
Mhm. It's divine.
As he says, if the desire's there, you'll move through the pain of it.
That's right. So what determines whether the desire is there? I often sit with that one.
Well, there's always a desire there.
So you just have to provide the context for it to step forward. And
You
that's
have to experience with it. You have to rehearse with it. You bet.
Mm.
You have to find it, in a sense, in our structure because of how we've structured people to perform rather than learn.
that's right.
And life is completely different as a learner and a performer. Structures are completely different because our structure is just a continuation of school.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then that's changing. And so that's why, as that changes, as that structure changes, it's not working. Because newer businesses don't want that anymore.
Mm.
But then they're held back by a lot of the structures too that doesn't allow them to fully exploit what's possible. I mean, that's change. That's change that is anchored to a new way. Anchored to an old way, open to a new way. It's like a ship, right? Ship that wants to set sail with the anchor still dragging.
Yeah.
So embracing, huh? What are you embracing?
I think the most important one is to embrace the unknown, right? what we presume to be the unknown. It's unknown because our senses haven't experienced it before, but if we know just realize something again about the internal process in meditation and contemplation. You come to know something through experiencing it in your body. And just beyond what you've experienced before. So then you get to know that as true. And when you get to know that as true, then you can step into that more and more.
Step, a bigger step into the uncertainty. With faith.
It's interesting. I was thinking about the anchor, and I was thinking about, so how does one stay grounded enough without being attached? Right? Because that's what the weight of the anchor will, it's like the strings from the past.
Mm-hmm. Get a structure in which it's structured to. The anchor, it's dragged, but in all reality, it's not. As long as it doesn't grab onto anything, you're still moving. It's when it grabs onto something. And so to me, it's like the old structures, right? That the ineffective structures, the old structures, the ones that haven't been updated, and those are so hard to see overall. It's the unconscious, if you will, the underlying structures that below the surface.
Yes.
Same place the desire is.
Oh, that's interesting. You think that desire lies in the unconscious as well?
Below the surface.
Okay.
I do. I mean, it's a feeling too, and the feeling is in the unconscious. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the only way we know a desire.
Yeah. That's so interesting.
Tell me more.
I don't know how to
If-
put this into words, but what I've just, the experience that I just had in my head now was we assign positives and negatives, but they really are, there's no such thing as a positive and a negative. There just is.
Yep.
I
That's
just
the
all of
one.
a sudden had that.
That's the one. And
Wow.
so that's why our confusion is between our fear and our desires.
That's right. That's right.
And
That's
not until we
exactly-
pull, not until we're aware of that charge and it's like, oh, is that real?
Yeah.
It's
And then
just
we
what
ask,
we've assigned it. And then we hold on to whatever we've assigned it because that's what we know.
that's right. And quite a long time ago, I read about Bruce Springsteen, and and high performer entertainers, and they were asking them all about their body sensations before they go onto stage, and then they asked them, what do those sensations tell them? And their body sensations were 80%, more than 80% the same, but their interpretation was either, as Bruce Springsteen said, he felt pumped and excited, or they were terrified.
Yeah.
I mean, they still went, they still did it. But just the realization that it was the interpretation of their state rather than the state itself.
Mhm. And then desire comes out of that.
And belief comes out of that as well, JC, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So that's how we get to change our beliefs.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Do I really want that?
Yeah.
That fear is just made up too.
Absolutely.
Time to go.
Yes. How did you know? This was a great start for my day. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Allison.
Have a good day.
You do the same. Bye now.
Love you. Bye.
Love you.